Okay, today we're doing classifying. Hopefully you were part of my Google Meet yesterday. I think I'm going to try to tape it. So if you didn't listen to the first part of classifying, you can watch that. But the big thing with classifying is you have to remember how to complete the square. So we need to remember to complete the square. You take half of b and square it. So you think of half of b squared. Then what does that give you? X plus or minus the quantity, x plus or minus whatever half of b was, or you could square root that squared. So if I wanted to complete this square, I think what's half of 10? 5. Squared is 25. What binomial is that? X plus 5 squared. If you think of the second two here, you have to remember that you can't complete the square unless you have x squared. So you would have to factor out a 4, which gives you that. Then you complete that square. Half of 4 is 2, squared is 4. That is 4 times the quantity x plus 2 squared. Fractions, if I take a 3 out, I'd have x squared minus 5x. Half of 5 is 5 halves. Square 5 halves is 25 fourths. That 3 stays out there. X minus 5 halves squared. So we have to remember that. So with the examples, what you want to make sure you do, you're going to end up first thing when you look at that example, the first thing I do, which I'm not going to write down the problem, is put things together by variable. So I'm going to have 2x squared plus 4x plus 2y squared minus 16y. And any constant you have, put it on a side by itself. So that's the first thing I did. Now what I'm going to do is complete the squares for the x and for the y, since I have 2 of them. So thinking of that, I take a 2 out, x squared plus 2x, and I'm just going to leave that right now. With the second one, I'm going to complete that. I take a 2 out, I have y squared minus 8y, and I got that. So now complete the square. Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. But I changed the left side. So I got to do the same thing on the right side. I didn't really add 1. I added 1 times 2, which is 2. So I added 2 on the left, add 2 on the right. Half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. But I didn't really add 16. I added 16 times 2, which is 32. So I got to add that over there. Now, write this as binomials squared. So that is x plus 1 squared. That is y minus 4 squared. That added up is 8. Now, you look at that equation and you think, okay, is that a circle? Is that an ellipse? Is that a hyperbola? It's not a parabola, because if it was a parabola, only one thing would be squared. They're both squared. If you see that both these numbers are the same, you are going to have a circle. Well, you need this to be written like a circle. A circle does not have a number in front of the things being squared. So how do you get rid of that 2? Divide, divide, divide. Anything I do to one term, I got to do to everything. So now I have x plus 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 4. There's no fractions, so that is a circle. What's the center of you're going to be asked for what are the important parts then, which really is just going to be like the center. I won't ask much more than the center and like the vertices or co-vertices. If you think of that, the center always opposite x, opposite y. Center is negative 1, 4. Circle has a radius. I find the radius by square rooting 2. So that's a circle. Second question, which hopefully, again, you have the notes so I don't have to write it out. I'm going to put my x squareds together, my y, x's together, my y's together, anything else on the other side. So I'd have 9x squared plus 18x plus 4y squared minus 24y equals negative 9. It's sort of like you do the same thing every single time. Deal with your x's. Take a 9 out. X squared plus 2x. Deal with your y's. Take a 4 out. I got that. Now complete the square. Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. But I didn't really add 1. I added 1 times 9, which is 9. I got to add 9 over there. Whatever I do to the left, I do to the right. Half of 6, 3 squared, 9. But I didn't really add 9. I added 9 times 4, which is 36. Write it as binomials and do that side, which gives you that. So now those numbers are different. If those numbers are different, you're going to either have an ellipse or a hyperbola. Well, it's based on adding or subtracting. Since we are adding, we have an ellipse. The equation of an ellipse and a hyperbola is always equal to 1. So now you got to think, how can I make it equal to 1? I got to get rid of that. Well, if I divide that by 36, I got to divide everything by 36. 9/36 is 1/4. 4/36 is 1/9. There's my equation. I have an ellipse. My center is negative 1, 3. Vertices are going to be, it's going to be bigger this way. Vertices are 3 up and down from that, which would be negative 1, 6 and negative 1, 0. Covertices are 2 left and right, negative 3, 3 and 1, 3. I'm not going to ask you for the foci of that, so don't worry about that. Okay, next one. Trying to go quick. So next one, put my x's. So I got that. Put my y's. And then take that negative 324, add it to the other side. Take 36 out. I have x squared plus 4x. Now you are taking out a negative 9. So since you took out a negative 9, that sign is going to change to a minus 8y. Complete your squares. Half of 4 is 2, squared is 4. 36 times 4, add 144. Here, half of 8 is 4, squared is 16. Now, what you did is negative 9 times 16, which is negative 144. So you subtracted 144 on the left, so you got to subtract 144 on the right. Write as perfect squares. So we have that, add that stuff up, those cancel out, you got 324. Now, this is subtraction, they're both squared, it's going to be a hyperbola. Equals 1. Divide everything by 324. 36 over 324 is 1/9. 9 over 324 is 1/36 equals 1. So with a hyperbola, center, opposite of x, opposite of y, negative 2, 4. All I asked with this actually was the vertices. So the vertices, since X is first, you got to think you're going left and right. So your vertices are 3 away from the center, left and right. 1, 4, and -5, 4. If you draw the picture, you can sort of see it. I'm just trying to go quick. So last one. Only one thing is squared. If only one thing is squared, you know that you're going to have a parabola. Keep that stuff, that letter, on a side by itself. So I'm going to keep y squared plus 16y, and I'm going to take everything else to the other side. I can't complete the square if I don't have a square for the x. So I'm going to complete the square for that. Well, I don't have to take anything out. Half of 16 is 8. 8 squared is 64. Now, I do have to add that 64 that I added to the left to the right. That then is y plus 8 squared. Put together like terms. -124 plus 64 is -60. Now, you just have to remember that with a parabola, you need that HK. So you do need this with parentheses. So this sort of stays, and you think, well, how can I get parentheses here? Take out a common factor. Well, what's the biggest number that goes into 12 and 60? 12. Whatever that sign is, you take that out. So you got -12, and then it would actually be x plus 5, because you'd have to distribute that and get that. That is your equation. Now you got to think of things that I'm asking. Vertex, opposite, opposite. It's not really the center. It's your vertex. So your vertex would be -5, -8. Okay. Your focus, the P. Well, if you think of the P, that was, you had to have 4. So you would think, well, -4 times 3. Focus then, it's sideways because it's y squared. So I'm going to go 3 spots away. Since it's negative, it's going to be left. So my focus is in there, which is -8, -8. My directrix is that line that's 3 spots away, which would be x equals -2. And then your axis of symmetry, the thing that splits that in half, y equals -8. So that is classifying. Again, do the questions, and I will answer some questions. Be careful with the signs, I would say. Those are mistakes. And don't forget, whatever you do to the left, you got to do to the right.